It was supposed to be a typical Thursday at Langley Company, one of the city's top marketing firms. The floor buzzed with the low hum of typing, ringing phones, and hushed brainstorming sessions. Among it all sat Claire Whitman, senior account manager, with her signature coffee mug and calm poise, flipping through ad pitches for a new luxury client. To her colleagues, Claire was the embodiment of grace under pressure. Smart, efficient, and married to a charming man named Daniel. The pair often appeared at company events hand in hand, exchanging soft glances that made interns swoon. But behind those glances, behind the carefully curated image, something had begun to rot. At exactly 11:12 a.m., the glass doors to the office swung open with more force than usual. Heads turned. A man in a navy suit, tall, handsome, and visibly fuming, strode past a receptionist without stopping. Daniel. Claire blinked, rising halfway from her desk as he approached. "What are you doing here?" she asked, voice strained with disbelief and a touch of fear. The entire floor went still. Even the intern stopped mid-sip of his Red Bull. "I thought I'd return something," Daniel said coolly, placing a thick, sealed envelope on her desk. "And give you a little surprise." Claire's fingers trembled as she picked it up. "What is this?" "Divorce papers." The silence cracked like thunder. "Daniel, not here," Claire whispered sharply, eyes darting to the growing crowd of curious co-workers. "Oh, here's exactly the right place." He stepped back and raised his voice, not shouting, but loud enough to be heard across the floor. "I just thought everyone should know that while Claire was pulling all-nighters at the office, she wasn't working alone. Isn't that right, Jason?" A man across the room choked on his coffee. Jason Keene, Claire's junior associate, single, ambitious, and until now discreet, looked like he'd seen a ghost. "Oh my God," someone muttered. Claire's face drained of color. "Daniel, please." But he wasn't finished. "You think I didn't know? The late meetings, the changed passwords, the weekend conferences. I hired a private investigator. I've got pictures, texts, even hotel receipts." He turned, nodding toward the HR manager who had awkwardly approached, unsure whether to intervene. "You'll be getting a call from my lawyer. And Claire, you'll be getting served in court next with proof of infidelity and grounds for spousal support termination." Jason bolted toward the elevators. Daniel glanced one final time at Claire, no longer angry, just hollow. "You threw away a decade for a fling, so I figured I'd throw away the mask." And with that, he walked out. Claire stood frozen, eyes wide, heart racing. The envelope in her hand suddenly felt like a ticking bomb. In a single morning, she lost a husband, a reputation, and, if HR had anything to say about it, a career. Moral? Some secrets don't stay buried forever, especially when they walk to the front door. Claire stood rooted to the spot long after Daniel left, the divorce papers still trembling in her hand. Her ears buzzed, not from the noise around her, but from the shock settling like concrete in her chest. She had always controlled the narrative, managed crises for million-dollar clients, talked her way out of disasters. But this was uncontainable. "Claire," came a cautious voice behind her. It was Meredith, her boss, VP of Brand Strategy, and a woman who wore a reputation like armor. "Come with me. Now." They walked to the glass conference room. Eyes trailed them the whole way. Inside, the door closed with soft click. Meredith sat, fingers steepled, silent for a long moment. "Is it true?" she finally asked. Claire opened her mouth to lie, to twist the truth, but something in her gave up. "Yes," she whispered. Meredith sighed. "We're going to have to do damage control. Not for you, for the company. If there's evidence involving Jason, if this leaks, it could harm client trust and our credibility." Claire nodded, swallowing hard. "I understand." Meredith looked her straight in the eye. "You're suspended, effective immediately, until we determine the impact. Pack up. HR will follow up." That was the second blow. An hour later, Claire exited the building with a cardboard box in her arms and shattered pride trailing behind. The paparazzi hadn't arrived yet, but the gossips of corporate life were faster than any tabloid. Her phone buzzed. A text from Daniel. "You can keep the apartment. I won't live in a place built on lies." She felt a knot twist in her stomach. She got in her car, drove with no destination, ended up in a park under a gray sky. She sat there for hours, watching clouds drift by, just as everything else in her life was drifting away. The affair with Jason had started as escapism. Daniel had become distant, working late, emotionally unavailable. But instead of confronting it, she chose excitement, chose secrecy. She told herself it was just passion, temporary, harmless. Jason made her feel seen again. But now, with her marriage gone, her job hanging by a thread, and Jason refusing to even look her in the eye as he ran, Claire was left with the ruins of her own choices. 3 months later, a headline trended on LinkedIn. Ex-senior exec Claire Whitman launches discreet brand rehab consultancy for high-risk clients. A bold move. She had taken the scandal and flipped it, using her own downfall as proof that she understood crisis better than anyone. Some called it shameless. Others called it brilliant. Claire never denied her past. In interviews, she admitted it, owned it, turned it into strategy. Daniel never came back. He moved to Chicago, started over. Claire mailed him a handwritten letter. No apology, just thanks to the truth bomb that forced her to face herself. Jason? Transferred to another firm in a different city. No contact. No regrets, he claimed, but his silence said otherwise. Claire's brand rehab company? It caught fire. Turns out, in a world addicted to scandal, the ones who survive it best are the ones who stop hiding from it. She lost everything in a single morning. But sometimes, losing it all is the only way to find what really matters. Claire stood before the mirror in her modest new office. Nothing like the glass tower she once ruled from, but it was hers. The shelves behind her were filled with strategy books, press clippings, and a single framed photo of her and Daniel from happier times, kept not out of longing, but as a reminder. She had learned that power without integrity was a ticking time bomb, that secrets rot the soul, no matter how carefully they're hidden behind polished smiles, and that sometimes the collapse of life is the only way to build a real one. As she closed her laptop after finishing a crisis strategy for a new celebrity client, Claire felt still, not happy, not fully healed, but honest, and that was more than she'd had in years. Outside, the city moved on. So, did she? The wind outside her office window rustled the trees, and the golden hue of the setting sun spilled across her desk. Claire leaned back in her chair, fingers laced across her stomach, eyes closed. She remembered the humiliation. The glass conference room, Daniel's voice cutting like a blade, Jason's betrayal. But what lingered more than the pain was the lesson. She no longer chased validation in someone else's arms. She no longer molded herself into the perfect wife or perfect executive. For the first time in her life, she was just Claire, flawed, rebuilding and in control of her own truth. A knock at the door. "Come in," she said. It was Maya, her first intern, now promoted to a junior strategist. We landed the Meyer Tech account. They signed today. Claire smiled, not the cold, polished smile she used to fake for clients, but a real one. Good work. Let's keep going. As Maya left, Claire glanced at her phone. No text from Daniel, none expected. He had moved on. He was dating someone new, a yoga instructor from Chicago. Claire had found out by chance, and instead of the sting she expected, she felt peace. Jason had tried reaching out once. Months later, an apology disguised as small talk. She didn't respond, not out of anger, but out of growth. Some bridges weren't meant to be rebuilt. That night, Claire walked home. No car, no driver, just the cool air and the steady rhythm of her heels on the sidewalk. Her life was quieter now, simpler, but finally it was hers. She stopped by a small bookstore on the corner and bought a leather journal. Inside the cover, she wrote, "Day one, not of a new job or a new brand, but of a woman who finally tells the truth to the world and to herself." And with that, she began her next chapter, not as a wife, not as a scandal, but as someone who survived the worst kind of public unraveling and still chose to rise. She was no longer hiding from the truth. Now, She was the truth. And nothing was more powerful than that.